everyone. So now let's talk about the process which is our monitor and control project work. So we started with the initiation, then we moved to planning, then we moved to execution. We did two processes in execution, and finally now we are in the monitoring piece. So whatever you do, you want to make sure you monitor the project. As a project manager, it's not just about initiating the work, or it's not just about planning the work. It's not just about executing. It's also about monitoring and controlling. It's your job as a project manager to make sure if the team or if the work is not going as per planned, what are the preventive steps you are taking? What are the corrective actions you are taking? So this is monitor and control project work. So this process occurs as long as there is work to be produced. Process groups. So the process group which is used is MNC process that ensures that the project work and deliverables are in line with the plan. So basically what you're doing over here, you're doing a comparison of the planned work versus the actual work. Like for example, the same example, your plan is to complete all the videos for this particular knowledge area today. Okay, but unfortunately you only covered 3 or 4. So that's a variance, right? What you planned and what you actually did is the variance. Or let's say your plan was to cover the entire knowledge area, but you also covered the scope management, right? You found it pretty interesting and you want to listen more about it, right? That's also planned. That's also the comparison, the variance. So a variance occurs when there is a difference between planned and actual. Again, it could be positive variance or it could be negative variance. To go into much more details about the variance, we will probably discuss that in the cost management knowledge area, where we would be discussing the earned value management. Based upon this variance, we will have some recommendations. So recommendations will result from the measured variance, which will affect the changes in the execution of the plan or changes to the plan itself. Like, think from this perspective that things are not going right. As a project manager, you will definitely take a step, right? That step will make sure that you are back in line with what you have planned, or you might be delayed with by a few more days, or it might cost you more, right? So whatever steps you do, these recommendations will come out of it. Sometimes you take a corrective step, or sometimes you take a preventive step because you don't want to make a mistake, right? So you have to be proactive, and specifically when you are monitoring and controlling the work. Issues, potential problems, as well as existing issues may be uncovered. So if things are not going right, then this is an issue. How to resolve that issue, it's a part of your project management. Okay. Now let's discuss the ITTOs of this process. Since it's monitor and control project work, you'll get a lot of inputs because you wanna monitor almost everything, right? So first we have the project management plan, where all the components, you want to monitor all the components of project management plan. Then in the project document is concerned, first we have the assumption log. So assumption log is a very important input. Why? Because assumption is something which I assume to be correct. Okay, assume to be true. Like for example, if I'm assuming that my friend who has pretty good knowledge would help me, and if he or she is not helping me out, right? So that's, my plan may not complete on time. And let me blame it on my friend that he didn't help me, and that's why it took me 6 months to buy that car. So that was an assumption log, right? I was not able to properly monitor and control the project work. Then basis of estimates. This is something we'll talk about in much more detail in the cost management, like what were the real basis, how did you come up with those estimates. So you want to control those as well. Cost forecast. So forecast is something which you say that, okay, the way I'm doing this class, I might end up completing the project on, let's say 10 days prior to my exam date, or I might end up, not fully prepared. That's cost forecast. You do some kind of forecast, and if you're doing something related to budget, that's your cost forecast. Issue log, of course, you want to monitor and control your issue log. Lessons learned register, of course, the something from your previous project can help you to make sure you properly manage your project. Milestone list, you want to make sure that your milestone list is is monitor and control. Your quality reports, your risk register, risk report, schedule forecast. So not just cost forecast, this the schedule forecast should also be properly monitored and controlled. Then we will have the work performance information as an input. Okay, remember, work performance data gets converted into work performance information. Work performance information gets converted into work performance reports. So data gets converted into information, information gets converted into reports. So if in this case work performance information is an input, you will definitely have work performance report as an output. So if you see here, work performance report as an output. Data, which was the raw observation, gets converted into something more substantial, that is your information, and information actually takes the form of a report. That's a work performance report. Then you want to make sure you monitor and control the agreements. If you're dealing with a seller, then it's your job as a project manager to deal with those agreements and monitor and control. Is the seller doing the right thing? Is he following the contract? If not, what are the steps we need to take? So that's part of monitor and control project work. Of course, we will have EEF, OPA, the common inputs as well. As well as tools are concerned, we will have expert judgment, decision making, meetings, and a couple of them in data analysis. We'll discuss that in detail. Output, we had the work performance information which got converted into reports. Of course, you will have change requests. So for all the monitor and control project work, whenever you are monitoring and controlling, like for example, if you are in control cost or control schedule, control monitor resources, like all of those may result into change request. If you are not doing the right thing, then at the right time, then it's a change request, right? You might have to take some corrective actions for that, which might result into some preventive actions to be taken for the future deliverables of yours. So all that is part of change request. Your plan documents may get updated, and similarly your documents, project document may also get updated. Okay, like issue log, cost forecast, lessons learned, risk register, schedule forecast, all of those may get updated as well. Okay, so we have already gone through this, the inputs. We discussed that project management plan, like this definitely how you would monitor, how you would control it. You need to know that information. This is something which the project management plan is giving you. Then project documents, a lot of project documents, we discuss each one of them in detail. Similarly, we discuss why work performance information is an input. Then agreements, buyer-seller relationship, you need to make sure that that's properly monitored and controlled. And of course, our OPA and the EEF updates. Okay. So as far as tools and technique is concerned, so this is something which I wanted to discuss. So expert judgment, another common tool. We have discussed this a lot of time. When you're monitoring, when you're controlling, you need a help of experts. So this is a common one. You will see that every time. As far as data analysis is concerned, we get so we have the alternative analysis, which we would be discussing in the resource management. But what is this alternative analysis? In order to do something, there might be alternative, like many possible ways. Selecting the best way is alternative analysis. You as a project manager, it's your job to make sure that you first of all find all the alternatives and then select the best one which suits you the best for your project. Cost benefit analysis, remember this is we will be discussing in quality management knowledge area, but if you remember, we briefly discussed about the CBR, cost benefit ratio, and the benefit cost ratio in the introduction slide. So in the introduction, we talked about like how benefit should be more than the cost, and if the ratio of BCR with comparing that with the two projects will result into which project to select, like the higher priority project to select. Then we would be discussing the earned value analysis. I already discussed the earned value management, which will actually help you to talk about the variance. Then we'll have the root cause analysis, which we would be discussing in the quality management, like try to find out the root cause of the problem. So if you're trying to do the monitoring control, there are problems, right? So if there are problems, you want to know the root cause so that you can work on the root cause so that this is something which doesn't happen in future. Then you will have the trend analysis. Trend analysis is actually basically about the forecast, which forecast the future performance based upon the past trends. Like for example, I use this trend analysis like buying shares in the stock market. Like if I want to buy a share of let's say of an e-commerce company, I know that around Thanksgiving or around Christmas, that's on holiday period, right? So around Thanksgiving and Christmas, a lot of people actually buy gifts, and at that time, if you see the stock market is pretty good, and specifically for those e-commerce companies, pretty good. It's pretty nice. So that's the trend, right? So I'll probably try to buy it at the time when it is at lower time, and try to sell it when it's the vacation, like not the holiday season. Then we have the variance analysis. Variance is more like a comparison of planned and actual and try to find the variance. Decision making, we'll be talking about decision making in scope management knowledge area. In order to take a decision, there are many, many techniques like votings, majority, plurality. All those are actually voting techniques, which we would be discussing in detail in scope. And of course, we'll have the meetings as well. Outputs we have already discussed. It's a monitor and control project work, so you will always have a change request. Keep that in mind. Your work performance information was an input, and as I told you, work performance information will get converted into work performance reports. Document updates and plan updates, these are common outputs. They will definitely get updated. Okay, let's do a quick revision time. So first of all, it's a monitor and control project work. What you're doing, you're trying to do the comparison of planned versus actual. So focus your efforts on understanding the primary outputs, work performance reports, and the change requests. So make sure that these are the two outputs. And of course, the change request is something which will definitely be an output to this process. For monitor and control, you will have change request. No, this oversight process does not occur once, but many times in the cycle of planning, executing, and monitoring control. So this is something you keep on doing again and again and again. See, a lot of processes are repetitive. You will do that again and again. And why? Because you want to monitor a project whole through your project, right? Not just in the beginning or when you are doing the executing or when you are just planning. You want to do it whole through. Of course, in sometimes you want to monitor it more. If you're not doing the right thing, I'll probably monitor my project in a more aggressive fashion. So that's monitoring control. Note this process follows direct and managed project work and precedes the perform integrated change control, which we will be discussing the next. So once we have an deliverable, we try to make sure that is done in the right way. So we monitor and control at that time. Once we get it, after that we try to monitor it to make sure that it is following, it has actually followed all the requirements which were defined in the requirements management plan, right? It has to go through testing as well, right? So that's one of the aspect. Always remember, it does the comparison of planned versus actual. So this is like the basic thing.